So hi everyone, now let's start about syntax in Python. So first let's begin with the commands in Python. So how do we write a command in Python? So any line which starts with a hash symbol is a command in Python. And the commands are those lines which are just for our reference, or you could say they are the notes for our code. These commands just get ignored by Python interpreter. Now, how to write a command? It is pretty simple, right? So let's write it down a command. My first command. Now, this is not a command because this line doesn't get started with a hash symbol. So let's use the hash symbol. So we have created our first command. But that's not the smart way. A smart way is to use keyboard shortcuts. So let's say I want to uncomment all of these three lines. So just select them all. First step, select them all. Then use these two keyboard shortcut. If you are using Mac OS, then keyboard shortcut is command and / key. If you are using Windows, then keyboard shortcut is control and / key. So let's use command and / key. We have uncommented all of these three lines in a one go. Let's now comment them back. So again, select them all and use the command and / done. Now we know how to create a command, and we can use a command like this also, like after using a object. So like over here I have used in integer object, and here in a command I have written this is the int data type object. This way also writing command is pretty okay, and we will use them a lot like this. So now let's talk about the data types in Python. So these are not all, but these are the most primary data types in Python. So we have int, integer data type, float, they are the decimal data type. Then we have the textual data, that's the string. So to write a integer data type, we can just write it down directly without any single quotes, double quotes, comma, without any sign. Then same way happens with the float or decimal data type, that is. And if you want to check the type of that is any specific data type, then we have this type function in Python. So if you use this type function, it will give the type of that specific object. So like this 22 is a integer object. So if you are using not a Jupyter notebook, if you'll use this or getting a output of this print function, then it might give a output something like this. So now output is the class int, which is exactly equal to the int. So that means this is the integer object or integer data type. Same way if you use on a float or decimal number, it will give you a float data type with a class if you're using a print function. But what will happen if you will write down a number with a single quote? So any data which is surrounded by these single quotes is not a number data type. These are the strings data type. String is a separate data type. As you could see, when I have used this type over here, it is giving me a str, whereas on 22 it is giving me int. Let me do one thing. Let me remove these single quotes and let's run it. So do you see, without those single quotes, the data type is the int, and with the single quotes, data type was a string. But what is the impact of this on our code? So there are many operations which will differ on the basis of data type. Let's say I have two numbers, and these are the numbers I'm using in a string data type. Let's say 45 and 33. Let's add them when they are the string data type. You see what has happened? They did not sum them all, but they got a concatenated. Whereas when I'm using them in a number form, same two numbers, they summed up, because over here now they are the integer data type, and when I enclosed them in a single quotes, then they were the string data type. So they got concatenated, and here without single quotes, when they are number type, they got the summed up. And these things we gonna learn much more in details when we will talk about the mathematical or arithmetic operators in Python. But I hope that gives you a clue that why you should use a correct data type as per its need. Now, let's come how to write the string. So one way we have learned that a string or a textual data could be written with these surrounded with these single quotes. Now, and this is a escape character /n. So let's see what's the impact of this escape character /n. So instead of getting a direct input, so let me use a print function and let's run this code. Do you see what has happened? Because this is a new line character, this \n. So as what print function does, it gives a output as well as it format the output also. It takes a lot of other things also consideration, like it utilizes the formatting of these escape characters. So whenever you will use this new line escape character with the print function, in the output you will see the next syntax will be in a new line. And you see there is a space because after this new line there is a space. If we remove this space, we're getting the same indentation. So a space is also a character in Python, remember that. And over here we can write any character. So in these strings you can write down any numbers, you can write down even any signs, but there is a caveat on that part we will learn later on in the when we talk about more of these escape characters. But now we know that how to write a textual data in Python. So one way we can write with a single quotes as well as with the double quotes also. It's okay to write a textual data or strings in Python. They are the same thing. So strings could be written with a single quotes surrounded by or with a double quotes surrounded by. And if they are the multi-line strings, then they should be written with the 3 double quotes like this or with a 3 single quotes like this. So let me do one thing. Let me make it multi-line string, this one. Yeah. Now they are the multi-line strings with a 3 single quotes. But what happens? Now there is a few issues with writing a code like this. So let's see what happens. So let me create one more cell. So let's write let's say this is a line, or let's instead of this, let me write this one. Let's say this is Shashank's code and close this with this single quote. But what has happened? Do you see we are getting a error alert? Why? Because we have used two single quotes over here. So in between also we are using a single quote, whereas we are enclosing over here this is line with a single quote. So Python interpreter is assuming that our code has ended over here, and this line, this new string is not starting with a single quote. So that's the reason it is giving error. So let me execute the code. Do you see immediately it has raised an error? An error is unterminated string later because of that. So now there are a couple of solutions we can resolve this problem. One way is that if there is a single quote in between a line, then we could enclose this particular line with a double quotes. So let's enclose it with a double quote and let's run the code again. So do you see now we have resolved this particular problem? But what's happening? Let's say, but now there is a double quote inside also. Double quote also. So let's use a double QUAT quote. Yeah. But now again the problem has come. So now what is the solution to resolve this? One way is that to use these 3 quotes or multi-line strings. So write down like this way. Use these multiline string. If you write any multiline string, so all these things will be ignored. So now our Python interpreter know that this is a whole line. Yeah, this line is a whole line. It understands pretty well. But there's a other solution also. So let's get back and make it again a. So now utilize one escape character. That's the backslash. What happens? So whenever there is a single quote or double quote, so right now the problem is coming with these double quotes. So let's use a backslash character in front of this double quote and use again one more backslash character in front of this double quote. Let's run the line. Do you see? We got a correct out, because what this character does, this character escape whatever the character we are applying before that. So do you want to see? Let's apply this thing with, like, let's use in front of this I. Let's run this. So what it did over here. So do you see? Python interpreter is smart. It recognized. So what it did. So now in the output we are getting 2 backslashes. So that's why Python is a smart language. But when you use the same single quote in front of this, so it just removes the impact of these double quotes. And you remember one more thing. If we will use this backslash character in the end of our line, just in front of this, let's say on this particular ending double quote or single quote, so that will raise an issue. So the solution is that if you want to put a backslash just after end of the line, either use a space if that gives you a solution, but sometimes you just wanted to put just after this, so use a one more backslash. So what that backslash do, it will remove the impact of the last backslash. Now we got a pretty good output. So I hope that gives you a clarity about these escape characters. Also now we have seen how to utilize our new line character and this tab t. This is the type character, so let's use over here. So let's use backslash t. Let's run it, and let's do one thing. Let's use backslash t over here also. Let's run it and do one thing. Let's use, instead of this direct output, use the print function as it formats our code. Now do you see what's happening? Now you will see a direct impact of this. So now you see, now as we wanted to get only one backspace character, that part is happening over here. And over here, let's use in front of this is also one more character. We are getting this backspace over here, because Python is a smart language. It realizes it is a backspace. It's not a escape character over here. But whenever you use this character in front of these keyword, it is recognizing that this is a special escape character, and that means there is a tab. So you do see there is a pretty good space between these wherever we have used this backspace t, and where I use this backspace in front of these single quotes or double quotes, it has nullified the effect of those single quotes or double quotes. So I hope that gives you a pretty good idea about these backspace characters, and now you know how to write a Python string correctly and what is the use of print function. Also it gives the output, as well as with giving the output it also format our code. So thank you guys, bye bye.